Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Newsbrowse News broadcast. Former Canadian diplomat Michael Kovrig has cautioned Canada against viewing China as a solution to its problems with the United States, describing Ottawa's new China strategy as a risky play that could jeopardize trade talks and Canadian economic security. Speaking at the Future of Business Summit in Ottawa, Kovrig, who endured over 1,000 days of arbitrary detention in China, argued that engaging more deeply with Beijing in the current geopolitical climate could be perceived negatively by Washington and undermine Canada's position as a reliable ally. Kovrig highlighted the stark difference in trade dynamics, noting that while the U.S. accounts for 75% of Canadian exports, China represents only about 4%. He warned against becoming strategically vulnerable by overly relying on China, drawing parallels to how Canadian sectors like caboodle and pork have become excessively dependent on the Chinese market, which can then be leveraged politically. Global News reported on Kovrig's remarks, emphasizing his caution about short-term gains potentially leading to long-term geopolitical risks. Canada's Financial Transactions and Reports Analysis Centre, Fintrac, has issued a warning about criminal organizations exploiting young Indian nationals on study permits for extortion schemes. These schemes primarily target businesses within South Asian communities across Canada, with reported activities in British Columbia, Alberta, Manitoba, and Ontario. Fintrac notes an increase in financial intelligence disclosures related to extortion, with more cases reported in 2026 than in the previous 2 years combined. The bulletin highlights coercive tactics, including intimidation, violence, and cross-provincial coordination, often involving organized crime groups like the Bishnoi and Bambiha gangs. The agency advises financial institutions to be vigilant for suspicious transactions, such as unusual cash deposits, rapid transfers, and customers exhibiting nervousness or receiving external direction. Victims are often targeted through anonymous calls or messages demanding significant payments, with tactics escalating to gunfire and arson. Fintrac urges early reporting and vigilance to combat these activities and reduce the stigma that prevents victims from seeking help. City News everywhere. A British Columbia Supreme Court has awarded $1.8 million in damages to a teenager who was assaulted and wrongfully arrested by security guards at Metrotown Mall in 2019. The ruling details that $1 million of the award is for punitive damages against Paladin Security, whose guards pushed the then 17-year-old transgender man downstairs and detained him unlawfully. The court found Paladin's management dismissive of the serious allegations and noted a culture of unresponsiveness to excessive force complaints. The plaintiff, who suffered a concussion and emotional distress, was awarded additional damages for pain, income loss, and future care. Paladin Security is reviewing the decision and considering an appeal. Prime Minister Carney has declared that Canada will not be making any further concessions as trade talks with the United States approach. This firm stance was reinforced by Ontario Premier Doug Ford, who rejected the idea of putting American alcohol back on store shelves. This combined message signals a resolute position from Canada ahead of crucial negotiations concerning trade irritants. The article suggests that while Canada has concerns, it is not prepared to yield further ground in these upcoming discussions with its southern neighbor. The specific details of the concessions or trade irritants were not elaborated upon in this segment, but the overall sentiment is one of unyielding negotiation tactics from the Canadian side. The Canadian press reports that Teck Resources Limited announced a significant increase in its first quarter profit, which more than doubled compared to the same period a year earlier. The mining company's profit attributable to shareholders reached $819 million, or $1.67 per diluted share. This strong performance was primarily fueled by record quarterly copper sales volumes and robust commodity prices. On an adjusted basis, the company's diluted earnings per share rose to $1.75, up from 60 cents in the prior year's first quarter. Furthermore, Teck Resources saw its revenue for the quarter jump to $3.94 billion, a considerable increase from $2.29 billion. These positive financial results come as Teck continues to pursue its merger with Anglo American plc, a deal that received shareholder approval last December and is now awaiting final regulatory clearances. That's all for this video. Thank you for watching. See you in the next video.